Sometimes, the game doesn't live up to the hype.
And this one was over before it started, folks.
But that doesn't mean there's nothing worth talking about.
They've still shot over 80% from the charity stripe.
One man embraces this moment.
You don't find this exciting? Do me a favor, check your pulse.
Armed with the freedom to analyze, critique, and talk about anything.
What is the best sports movie of all time? I've decided.
Providing you the insight of game day, even if your team isn't playing.
Just a bit outside.
This is the Blowout Podcast with your host, Ty Schwartzlow.
You tried the corner and missed. Hello again, and thank you for joining me for another archive episode of the Blowout Podcast. I am your host and producer, Ty Schwartzlow. I'll give you a brief rundown of exactly what you can expect on today's episode. Today I got the chance to sit down with Jenna Fruedenberg and Mandy Pearson, two-thirds of the coaching staff at St. Mary's University, guiding a extremely successful women's basketball program that had an extremely memorable season. It was certainly one of the highlights of our season here at HBC. So we caught up with the coaches and talked a lot of different things, including philosophy of the program in general, how that played into this season's success. Darcy Rice and Courtney Early, a couple of seniors who brought tremendous leadership value, were discussed. And we also talked about what makes this program special, and specifically, how does their background in the MIAC translate and help them become so successful as coaches. And they had quite the disagreement regarding which award in the MIAC is tougher to win, so stay tuned for that. And then we also go a little bit more in-depth regarding an interesting start to Jenna Fruedenberg's coaching career at St. Mary's. And then the final question I was left with was, who's better on the court? I've seen both of them, certainly in their coaching days, didn't get the chance to see them play. But it is something that there is certainly an answer to, and it's a very interesting one at that. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mandy Pearson and Jenna Fruedenberg. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
First, talk to me about your philosophy as coaches. What is your philosophy in regards to your next opponent and player development?
Well, you already said it. We focus on, we want to improve every single day. And our goal, just so that our players can have a great experience and compete at their highest level, is when we start on October 15th and end hopefully in March, that we'll have our ups and downs and we'll have days where we're not playing at the top of our level, but throughout that entire process, we want to improve the entire season. And so, we just work to really improve all the little things and make sure that each player on our team is getting a little bit better every day, and that our entire team is learning how to work together and play at our highest level and compete at our highest level every day.
Is it fair to say that this season you ended a lot better than you did starting? Did you make that improvement as a coaching staff? Did you see that improvement?
Definitely. I think coming into the year, we graduated 4 seniors the previous year, and so it's kind of that idea of, okay, who are we going to be this year? Who's going to step up? And it just takes a little bit of time for people to feel that out. And we actually talked about it right at the end of this season, that thinking back to our very first MIAC game, we played at McAllister, and we were down, and we did not play well. I mean, I'm not even sure how we squeaked out of that game with a win. And we went from that point, to finishing first in the league and going to the national tournament. And so when we reminded the team of that, they all kind of just smiled. And it was just a great reflection point of, wow, we did really get better every day. We came a long way from that game. So.
Talk to me about the seniors. I know you're constantly locked into the one game at a time, not trying to look ahead, but now that the season's over, how happy are you that the seniors, Courtney Early and Darcy Rice, got that experience to play in a national tournament?
I'm very happy. I think that they loved that experience. And it was something that they were working very hard to get to that point. And they wanted to play beyond that, and they wanted to get to a national title game. And it's always been their goal to just take this team as far as they possibly can. So I couldn't be happier for them because of the work that they put in, and because of the kind of people that they are, and how hard they fought this entire season to do everything that they could for our team on and off the basketball court to be successful. So I was just excited that they could see their hard work pay off in a very positive way.
Mandy, I think you said it best in that the personality year to year is going to change of the team, but the culture to some extent remains. How useful or how valuable is it to have a pair of seniors that perfectly emulate what you're all about and what you're preaching to the team?
Oh, it's everything. We were talking with Octavia, we were doing some individual meetings, and in that discussion said now, she was talking a little bit how we as coaches kept telling her that there was one thing we wanted her to make an adjustment on the court, and she could never see it. But then she had a teammate, or one of our managers actually, we can consider them teammates, say something to her about it. Well, Octavia, you should really do this. And her response was, oh yeah, I probably should. And in that conversation, because she'll be one of our leaders next year, it was a great way to explain to her, as a leader, you have to emulate what our coaching staff says, because we can say it over and over and over again, and we can say that this is how we want our culture to be, but it needs to be our leaders on the floor that emulate that, because they'll listen to you a little bit more. They're going to hear my voice all the time, and they're going to hear Coach F's voice all the time. We're going to say the same things over and over again every year, and when it comes from you, it means more. And so that's the culture that we've established, and fortunately, it started with my first year, the freshman class that I had at St. Mary's. They bought in, and they battled and they fought for this. Even though they didn't get to reap all of the benefits, they started that culture change. And so every year we've been able to improve our culture and become a harder working team because of the stuff that they started then, and it's just carried over, which has been awesome.
There was a quote from Courtney earlier that was particularly telling, something along the lines of her and Darcy are kind of different personalities. What is the personality of this year's team, considering that you've got the two senior leaders, one a little bit more quiet, one a little bit more loud, or is that, I feel like you're a little bit confused in the sense of what I'm asking?
No, I was just gonna let her answer.
No, I didn't have a great answer in my head, so okay. I thought you could go with it.
Between Courtney and Darcy, I think the personality of our team is, they're just fun. They loved every experience, and they found, whether it was a tough day, a great day, between the two of them, they found a way to make the best out of it. And they're both hilarious in their own way. Courtney Early is one of the wittiest people that I've ever been around, and she's very mature and confident and well-spoken, so she leads in that way. And Darcy's just fun-loving, hilarious. We give her, we tease her a lot because she's very gullible, so we can tell her anything, and the answer is always, oh, really? Seriously? And so we can make fun of her a lot, and it just brought out just kind of a fun-loving group, I guess, was a little bit of the personality.
Yeah. I think Darcy, I actually told her this, I think at the end of the year, I said, you went from being a freshman to a second semester senior really quickly. Because I think last year we always told her, you're a little bit of a freshman. As much as you're a junior, you transferred over from Winona State, you didn't get as much on the court playing time, and then also now you're a junior here, but you're coming in and it's a new team, new system, new school, new everything, and so you're a little bit of a freshman. Well, we didn't tell her this last year, but I said you kind of went from being that freshman to all of a sudden, you blink and you're a second semester senior, but she did transition that quickly. She didn't take a long time for her to get there, and you could see it this year. As she started the season, she just grew with confidence as a leader into, I am a captain, I am a senior leader. And she, Court did a great job of being a little bit more vocal than Darcy, but if you watch closely, Darcy was really vocal at the times when we needed somebody to step up. There's times, whether it was just with the guards or with the whole team, where Darcy was the one kind of saying those things or just putting in that extra effort when things weren't going right to really raise the level of our practice. So I think her quick transition was pretty neat to see as well.
You've 4 years tried to improve upon the culture and continue to get that culture improved. And one thing throughout this season that you told me about was improving the communication throughout the team. Talk to me a little bit about that. What was your end goal in terms of trying to just maximize and make the most efficient communication out there on the floor?
That's going to be our goal every single season, because a team that communicates well plays well together. And so we were just fighting to take that to the next level, because we really thought that's what would get us through the postseason. Talking, in help side on defense, communicating when you come in and off the court, who I'm guarding, where I need to be, communicating in transition, a lot of things defensively, but then also on offense, so that we were making the right reads. And communication cuts down turnovers and cuts down a lot of defensive mistakes, and I thought throughout the season we improved on that a lot.
The one thing that really stuck out to me in terms of the communication was in the Bethel playoff game. It seemed like every single player out there was really a coach on the floor. You could tell the amount of preparation that the team, and I'm sure having the bye certainly helped, but I have never seen a team like that, and to be able to, it was almost as if there was just one person, almost like a video game, and you could have one person controlling, but regardless of who went in there, there was no drop off in the level of play. Talk to me about that Bethel game and your preparation. Not necessarily just that, but this team's ability to take your game plan and take it out there on the floor and use it effectively.
I think a lot of that comes from their buy-in. They really, truly wanted to execute the things that we were asking them to do. And so they took it on themselves, and they knew a big part of that Bethel game plan was communication in executing, because we were doubling their posts. So if you're not communicating those things and having those rotations happen and talking about them, you're not going to be able to execute them as effectively as you want to. And so I think just them buying into the idea of what we were trying to do and understanding, what Bethel was going to do to counter it, and that we needed to communicate those things that they were going to try to do to counter our game plan, I think they just kind of ran with it. And then we had some success, early in the game, and they just fed off it, and we got a lot of momentum going, and they played a great game. It was credit to them for executing on the floor.
All right, let's talk about the national tournament game in Oshkosh. I didn't get the chance to see it in person, but watching the broadcast, it seemed like Darcy Rice, I can remember, hit a couple of huge threes. Courtney Early, before half as well as after the half, had a huge run. And then I believe Octavia Brown even hit threes. But my point being, every time you needed a big play, it seemed like whoever it was, you got it from one way or another. How valuable is that experience, so that going forward, you're going to be used to that national tournament environment and going to certainly be ready for that big moment?
Very valuable. If you've never been there before, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what it's going to be like to play in a situation like that. And I think that what I was most proud of that game is the Oshkosh crowd was crazy.
Oh my goodness, they were insane.
They were insane. What do they call themselves? The
Colf Crazies.
Colf Crazies. And they're fun. Great for Oshkosh to have that kind of fan support. But I thought that our team handled it very well. They didn't seem to get too rattled. They were nervous and excited and, anxious for that game to start, but they didn't allow the crowd to affect them.
Tell me, what were you thinking when you find out, okay, we're in the national tournament, great, but we're on the road? For all intents and purposes, you're in a visiting environment.
Right.
Is there any sense of, obviously it's out of your control, but I personally think, I don't assume that either one of you two will say it, but if that game is played on a neutral court, it was already incredibly close, much closer than that 10-point margin indicates. I suspect it's even closer. Regardless, it's going to be a great game between two very evenly matched teams. So any part of you that's a little bit disappointed in the fact that you had to go on the road or can't control it, don't worry about it?
I don't know if you'd say disappointed, if that's the word. I do agree, if it was on a neutral floor, it would have been a little bit different game. It was also the first time they had played in the national tournament in a long time. And I felt like for them, they had some young guards as well, and every time we made a run, it just took them taking one good play for the crowd to get going, and to kind of give them that confidence to get back in the game. And so I do think that was very, very beneficial for them. But I wouldn't say that I was disappointed in it, because that's the kind of atmosphere you want to play in. You're in the national tournament and you go on the road and you're playing in front of a crowd that's heckling you a little bit, and it was an awesome atmosphere. And I think if our team could do it all over again, they would, because that's a great opportunity. Who doesn't want to go on the road and win against a great team and a great atmosphere? I
would certainly expect that come next season in the future, you get a national tournament appearance, whether you're going on the road or not, you're going to be ready, and I imagine that experience would certainly help finally, what are your thoughts on the way the season ended? A little bit of a sour taste in the mouth, or are you just very excited with the steps forward that the program took?
Nobody ever likes to end a season on a loss. You know, at the Division III level, unless you're not making the playoffs and you happen to win your last game, there's really only one team in the country that finishes exactly the way that they wanted to. So it's disappointing, a sour taste, I wouldn't say that. I think losing that game just gives us more hope and more determination for the future.
Motivates you going into the off season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were telling our players, we're going to take 2 weeks off and then we'll give you a lifting program. And they were actually, I think, a little bit angry. Like, no, we need to start right now. We want to get going. We want to get in the weight room. We got to get better. And that's the mentality of our players. We're very fortunate as coaches, and it's not every single player on our team that's like that, but most of them just want to get going, and they needed their mental and physical rest. But so I think if anything, it's just making them a little bit hungrier to get back there and to get further in that tournament.
That is a scary thought to the rest of the MIAC, potentially next season. Any final things that, Jenna, Mandy, that you'd like to add regarding this past season? If not, let's move on and talk a little bit about you two personally.
I mean, nothing. You know everything about the season.
That's not even close to true. But let's move on now to the hit and run portion of the podcast. Now, my coaching staff here at St. Mary's, you two both played at Concordia Morehead, and I did not get the chance to see either one of you two play, but judging by awards and stats, it certainly sounds like I missed out. Let's start at the beginning. What made you want to be a Cobber and decide to go to Concordia?
Go ahead.
I was very indecisive in the college process, and initially I was only going to play Division II because it was the pressure that I was getting from my community, and looked at some Division II schools and just never got that feeling that people talk about, and played in a game and met some new people, some people other high school students around the state of Minnesota, and two of them were going to Concordia and basically begged me to go and visit because I refused to visit. I did look at a couple Division IIIs, and I went up there and basically walked in the gym, and that was what sold me. Then that was it, to be honest.
It was that simple, so you certainly knew. Jenna, what about you? It sounds like things may have worked out through the grapevine. Tell me about how you ended up at Concordia.
I similarly wasn't really looking at Concordia. I did most of my college visits with my brother, who's a year older than me, a few state schools, one private school. And I was just sitting, around in the summer before my senior year, and one of my AAU teammates, who's actually from Eden Valley Watkins, which is Mandy's hometown, called me and said, "Hey, we're going to go up to Morehead and we're going to visit Concordia." And I said, "No, we're not. Absolutely not." And she's like, "Come on, we'll go to the mall or something, just come hang out for the day. It's going to be me and my mom and Mandy Pearson's mom, and she wants to go see Mandy. She's up in Morehead, so we're just going to go swing by the college, and it's not going to be an actual visit." And I was like, "Okay, fine." So I went up there, and I didn't really know Mandy personally. I'd heard of her as a player, didn't watch her at Concordia or anything. Went to their college house just to literally pick her up, walked over to the gym, and was just kind of like, oh, this seems like somewhere I could go. And I just had a really comfortable feeling, and visited, another time where I actually took a tour of the campus. But I think I kind of already knew that's where I was going to go. So it was just kind of ironic. And then I came in, as Mandy was leaving, so.
Yeah, it's interesting in the sense that you two both had tremendous amounts of success as players. Mandy, 2 MIAC Player of the Year awards. Jenna, you have 1 as well. How much does the success you had as a player help in your transition to coaching, at least early on?
Maybe just the fact that it's believable for our players, because they can look and, okay, these guys might know what they're talking about. Especially when I first came to St. Mary's, it was, okay, she played against us last year. And it was, they kind of just had that skepticism towards me a little bit. But then at the same time, they're like, okay, well, she was Player of the Year, so I kind of want to listen.
You're doing something.
Right, but I don't know that I truly want her to be the one telling me what to do. And so I definitely walked, kind of lightly, treaded lightly around everything, just to make sure they knew that I truly cared about them and making them better before, I never was like, well, I was player of the year, this is how I did things, because that's, every player is so different, and you can kind of model your game after other people, but you have to go based off your strengths. So I just had to go with the, hey, I care about you, I do want you to be better, and then, slowly but surely they came around. But
that was a fun conversation. Pulling Sherry Kulig, Jess Miller, and Kim Kaminsky into my office. Sherry guarded Jenna in our games that year, saying, this is going to be your new assistant coach. I received so many glares, it took a while. They were not happy. But I was the same way. If I would have had somebody that I competed against that was good and beat my team twice that season, I would not want them anywhere near me. But they adapted really well, and Sherry actually responded to Jenna much better than I did.
Really?
They related very well with basketball stuff.
What did you see in Jenna that made you believe she would be a real positive part of your program?
She just played so hard, and the way that she played the game, she knew it very well. And I didn't know her that well, but in the conversations that I'd had with her through Crystal Chimperlin and my mom knowing her a little bit, she was just knowledgeable and humble and going to do whatever it takes to be successful, and I knew that she would bring a lot to our program because of her knowledge of the MIAC, her basketball knowledge, and just her determination.
Yeah, talk to me about that in terms of knowing how to succeed in the MIAC. I can't imagine you certainly know a lot more than I do. Tell me how much does having a knowledge of the conference help when you're a young coach trying to make your way?
I think just being able to relate with the players. We know what they're going through. Not exactly what they're going through. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's mind is different. But we have an idea of the mental and physicalness that playing in this league takes out of you every single year. So I think that helps a little bit, just being able to relate with what they're feeling and with what they're thinking. I don't know.
Okay, and we certainly don't want to go the whole podcast without mentioning Brett Basie. He had tremendous success at Gustavus. I believe it was something like 92-24. He had a really good record. Doing the research for the show, 2 points within a national title. Talk to me about Brett and what value does he bring to the program?
Brett brings a lot to our team. Him and I are a little bit different in how we think. He is very intelligent when it comes to numbers, and so he end of game situations and seeing different things statistic-wise is the person on our team that will point out, hey, he'll grab the stat sheet, he'll look at it for a minute, and he'll have it all calculated, where I have to get out my calculator. But he'll say, our post players are shooting a combined 52%, and they've only taken 20% of our shots. We have to get them the ball more. And the way he visualizes that is different than how I see it. And it's very beneficial. He notices a ton of little things that I don't, and he does the post subbing for us. Jenna does the guard subbing for us, and they both do it differently. He's reading numbers and calculating the number of minutes they're in, where Jenna's going by feeling, but those two work together, and it works really well. So he's been a great addition to our staff. Because of those things that he brings.
Talk to me about how you three really work as a system. It sounds like your personalities really mesh well, and you don't necessarily. One thing I would like to touch on is you were named MIAC Coach of the Year, and your comment was, I think it should be Coaching Staff of the Year. Tell me, why do you feel that the award should be Coaching Staff and not just Coach of the Year?
Because it's the truth. Specifically with our staff, Jenna puts in the exact number of hours that I do. She does just as much recruiting. She watches just as much, if not more, film than I, because she is better focused than I do. And she is invested. She's equally invested in this program as I am. And Brett, it's a part-time job for him, but he invests a lot of time and energy in practice and in games, and sees a lot of things. So it's a team effort. It's not like I walk out there and I did this myself. She's taken just as many recruiting trips as I have. Coach Basie knows a lot of people in the Rochester community and has a lot of friends that he's contacted or had us contact, and they'll listen to us because they know him. So it's not like I should deserve Coach of the Year because I did it myself, or I didn't make any shots. I didn't have an assist this past year or last year, and our players did that, and they're the ones that are in the gym putting the work in. So it's a team award, and really, if there's a coach award, it should be our coaching staff, because it's not. I didn't do it myself.
You can assume that as coaching staff of the year, you are a member of the coaching staff of the year. What is the more difficult award to win, player of the year or coach of the year?
Coach of the year.
Why so? Mandy, start with you.
But player of the year, each team has at least 10 people on their roster. So they have to stay healthy the entire season. They have to put in the time and effort to be successful. Your team has to do very well. If the team doesn't do well, typically, I think one time since I can remember, there's been one player that was on the 6th or 7th team in the league that finished 6th or 7th that was player of the year. So I think it's just more difficult to be that special. I don't know.
Right. Those are great points. I mean, when you talk about how you do need to be on a top team, so you can't be the only player out there. The reason I said coach of the year is because there's so many uncontrollables.
Oh, that's a good point.
As a player, if I was frustrated because I wasn't making my free throws, I could go shoot 500 free throws and I could get better at it. Or if I wasn't strong enough, I could go lift 4 days a week and I could get stronger. And there were so many controllables to your own game. In coaching, I mean, obviously we try to control as many things as we can, but there's just so many things you can't. In recruiting, why does somebody say yes versus why somebody says no? Do your players stay healthy all year? How do you match up against other teams in the league? And, are people ready to play every game? I mean, some of those things you can control, getting them ready to play every game. But I think it's a lot more to manage and a lot more that you can't control as a coach than as a player. And that's why I said that. I mean, I think Mandy has a valid point, but I'm kind of sticking to my guns here.
All right. Is there any part of you, you've been removed from your playing days, any part of you that just misses that being able to go out on the court and just dominate your opponent, or at least compete against your opponent?
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that I would say now is I remember the first experience I had where my lungs actually burned after I tried to play with our team.
Ow.
And so that's where the only thing right now is I know if I went out there I would get dominated. I lost a step, which is very unfortunate. It makes me sad. But you do miss it because playing is so much fun. You don't get to do it for very long, and stepping out on the court is one of the best feelings in the world. And I don't know, you'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah, I think we always tell our team this. We're value where you are, because we're a part of this team too. But we sit there and we're, it's Brett, Mandy, and I, and we're telling our own stories, old people stuff. And they're out there and they're laughing hysterically at each other. Maybe they're in a team huddle, or maybe they're in the locker room, and we walk by and there's just
fun.
Laughter, erupting. And it's like, oh, I remember those days when I was a part of a team and it was really fun, and I knew all the inside jokes, and when they, they just give each other the look and bust out laughing, and I was like, I remember when I was, part of those fun moments. And once you graduate, that's done. Rarely does anyone ever get to experience that sort of team chemistry, bonding, hard work, all those sorts of things ever again. So I think I miss that the most, just
being a part of a team in that capacity.
You two certainly have a passion for the game of basketball, and I was talking to Donnie Netto, sports information director at St. Mary's, and he took the trip up to Oshkosh with the team, and he remarked about you, Jenna, watching so much film on the iPad. He even asked you, is that all you do is watch basketball? So how do you get away from the game of basketball, or is it literally an obsession?
During season, it's nearly impossible. For our staff, that's just how we are. I think because we know that we value every possession so much, and that's something our team bought into. But it kind of becomes this addiction of, if I just watch one more film, I might see one more tendency or one more play. And that could be one possession where we get a stop on defense or we're able to score. And especially when it comes to playoff time. But in the MIAC, really, we look at every game as a playoff game. Because if you're not winning the games in November and December, you might not be in this position in February and March. So we value those possessions starting October 15th, and I think it does become a little bit of an obsession of just working so hard to find every little tool, resource, everything you can do to make your team better. So during season, it's very hard to get away. Off season, there's a few more opportunities, but it's difficult when you care, I guess.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. There was one season, I cannot remember the year, 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, was that Jess Thones?
3 years ago.
Jess, Jamie, Courtney,
Brittany's
junior year, where we won 9 games by 6 or less points, I think. Right?
9 of our 14 wins were by 6 or less points. It was Emily DeWitt's senior year.
Okay, Emily, yeah. And so when you go back to that year, in this game, there are so many little things that can affect you. Like in our Oshkosh game, we would start to make a run and the ball would literally bounce the wrong way one time and that would stop the run. And we just couldn't get over that hump. And so that's where we'll sit down after games and beat ourselves up like, I knew I should have shown them this play because they ran it 2 times and they got a good shot off of it one time, and and it's thinking about preparation and all those things. So we really want our team to do well. We want them to experience things like that, and I know I feel this way, and I know Jenna does too. We don't want to be responsible for missing one possession that could affect a game, and so it just becomes a little bit of a perfectionism between with her and my personality, but then more so we really care about those kids, and we don't want to miss something that could help them be successful.
Going back to something I had talked briefly about, just the notion of maybe the way this season ended sets some motivation for the offseason. I think by the last couple minutes of dialogue, there's no doubt about it, the St. Mary's Cardinals are very motivated, and that is a scary thought considering the amount of success that happened this season. Jenna, I'd like to talk to you about recruiting now. Obviously, there's some things we cannot talk about, but one thing that really stuck out to me is character in recruiting is something that you as a coaching staff value very greatly. I even read an article to the extent you watch if kids are on their cell phones, and that actually will help you make the decision and get to know their person. They talk to me about every little detail you can find out in terms of character of a potential recruit.
Yeah, we definitely value character, and I think this kind of goes back to one of the first questions you asked us was about the culture and the personality of our team. The culture comes from the people we recruit. I mean, that's part of it. Obviously, we try to establish some things as a coaching staff, but you have to have good people in your program to be successful, in my opinion anyway. And a little bit of the personality of your team comes from those personalities you're bringing in every year. So you want to make sure it's the right fit, and you want to make sure they're going to do things that are consistent with your value system as a team. So we're looking, and it's not just us as a coaching staff that does this, so we didn't invent the wheel here, but it's something where you're out watching an AAU game or you're watching a high school game and you're paying attention. How do they interact with their teammates? Because if they're not doing well in high school, it's probably going to carry over to college. And our team, one of the things they really truly care about is having team chemistry. You know, I mean, we were just talking to Bridget Pethke, I think it was yesterday, and she was just saying how excited she was about the chemistry of this team. You know, and we've had great chemistry in past years, but she was just commenting on how she truly felt that it was the highest it's ever been. And those things are just important. So we look for them, you know, all the time in recruiting, and you can't be perfect, you know, but you really try to bring in the people you think fit best. And then if it's not a perfect match, usually that culture, strong culture of the team, you know, makes it all mesh pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And I think you had mentioned you're not reinventing the wheel. It's common to coaching staffs, but I think it's very to potential athletes who want to play at the college level. You need to be aware of every single detail because you're representing yourself, and certainly if you do get to play at the college level, eventually your school. And I had read that article, and it was very enlightening as someone who had never thought enough to play at college athletics. But whether it is in sports or even in the media, you're certainly representing yourself, whether you think you're being watched or not. And I just thought it was something certainly worth at least talking about, at least momentarily. And now, before we get to our walk-off question, I want to know, what is your proudest moment in athletics for each of you?
Proudest moment? You know, I think one thing, and I'm just going to go back to this year because there's so many years of sports, but I think it was really fun for me to say this, really fun for our team to experience this, but I don't know that I've ever been a part of a team where that team truly gets better from day one to the last day. Like even in that Oshkosh game, I thought we were still improving in some aspects of our game. Now the ball didn't drop our way all the time, but I was just looking back at some of our Bethel game because I was looking for certain clips, and you know, there were some, you know, Natalie Larson in that game was stepping up big time, and she was battling, and there were some other people who were doing some really good things. Shelby was making extra passes, and Sarah was being super physical, and we were doing some things where I was like, we're still getting better. And I think this was the first time that I can say I've been on a team where from day one to the last day of the season they continued to improve, and I think that's probably one of my proudest moments.
It's unbelievable, just human nature. I don't remember how long the winning streak was, but you go on a long winning streak, it's human nature. Your complacency would play in, but to hear the constant improvement is certainly something to be very proud of, whether you're a coach, player, or any member of the program. Jenna, proudest moment in athletics?
Like Mandy said, there's so many, and you have them every year, but if I were to think back just at my time at St. Mary's, kind of that moment that I remember the way I felt during that moment would be last year when we finally hosted a playoff game, and it was Gustavus at home, and you know, we didn't really know exactly what to expect, you know, from hosting a playoff game, and we came and there were, I don't know, 600 and some fans, and it was packed. And the students were going crazy, and you know, we actually got down I think 14 at the half, and the fans helped us rally, and we came back and won the game, and it was just an unbelievable atmosphere. And I remember looking up at that crowd at one point, and it was, you know, probably a crucial time during the game when I should have really been focused on like you know, the X's and O's part of it, but I just looked up and the fans were absolutely into it, and our team was just out there clawing, you know, to do the best they could to get back in that game. And I kind of just sat back and I was like, wow, you know, we're here like we're at our destination, but we got to a point where we generated this much excitement, you know, because those first years, and I know Mandy, your first years here, you know, there wasn't that excitement around the team, you know, it was just a little bit of a bit of a different atmosphere around the team, and to see that it's possible to create that just by, you know, our team working hard and believing in each other was really, really a very unique and cool moment for me. So I was pretty proud, I would say, of that. That was cool.
I think the future is certainly bright, and the thing that I personally, as a media member, think of is you now have experience coaching in a national tournament game, and I'm sure that there's a number of different things that you can learn and improve upon, and certainly going forward, just continue to improve. And that's obviously, as we've discussed, what you're trying to do. With that, let's shift now to the walk-off. It's a game of one-on-one basketball. Who is winning?
Between her and
yes,
I?
Between you two.
Oh, God.
Now or right now?
We'll go right now, and we'll go in the prime of your career.
Ooh.
Oh.
Right now, I'm going to go with me.
Oh.
Okay, Mandy, why?
What?
You just gave a look like, how dare you? Why are you going to be...
Well, here's what happened. Okay, when she first moved here, I had obviously been done playing for 4 years, so we would play one-on-one, and we're so competitive. And she was a lot stronger than I was, okay? And so at that time, she would probably win 7 out of 10 games.
Maybe.
6 out of 10 games. She could just back me down and shoot layups. And my strength was always my quickness. And so now it's pretty even, so I don't know why today you think you'd win, but
Today,
we might end up in the gym a little bit later to play.
No, we actually banned playing one-on-one. We did that for the first. Gets a little too competitive.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
A little too competitive.
She's giving me 2 black eyes playing one-on-one.
My goodness.
That makes me sound fairly mean.
Well, I dove into her
There's
elbow.
smile on both of their faces.
Yeah.
It's not heated. It sounds like it.
And I say now I would win because I did witness Mandy trying to play one-on-one with our manager Natalie this year, and they kind of have a game every year. And usually Mandy, it's pretty quick work by Mandy. And this year, she went to take that first step, and she didn't blow by her.
First step is going away.
It's gone.
And I busted out laughing, and I was like, it's gone. And, when I saw that, I was like, well, I have the height advantage, so it's pretty much, I would have to say that I think I would win.
All right. We may
At least
or may
she's
not
humble.
have some
You
coverage.
can see how humble
right?
she is today.
Very modest. But we may or may not have coverage of a one-on-one game on HBC. but I'm assuming the prime of your career is probably your senior year at Concordia. If it's improving every day, who wins? You're both seniors.
I think Mandy.
I don't know. I'm not.
She was just really quick, and so I would have had to give a little space. And if she's hitting her shots,
I would win.
She would win. But if she's not hitting her shots, then I would probably win. Because when I was stronger, I could have got my shot off anytime going to the basket against her, and I have the height. But
the height was the thing. I haven't seen either of you two play, but in a little bit of tail of the tape, so to speak. Got the height.
But if she's hitting from the outside, I don't know that I could. She has an unbelievably quick first step. So
if I was hitting threes, then her getting to the basket wouldn't. But had. Oh, thank you
I'm sorry.
so much for that.
Sorry about that.
Last time I come down here. No.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
But clearly a little bit of a rivalry. But your final thoughts just on this season and working with each other. The one quote that really sticks out is, Mandy, I've heard it from you. You love coming into work every day. Share with me. Can you put a price tag on just enjoying what you do each and every day and enjoying the people you're around?
No, you can't put a price tag on that. It is fun. I don't know how many people in the world actually have an opportunity to show up to work every day and go to practice really, really enjoying the 2 coaches that are on our staff. I've never dreaded I have to go to practice with Brett and Jenna today, or I have to meet with them. That thought hasn't even come close to crossing my mind. So it's fun, and the best part about it is we have an amazing team that works their butt off, which makes it even more enjoyable. And then the SMU community's been phenomenal. HBC's been awesome. Just the Winona itself this season has really supported our team, and it just makes it really fun.
All right, and let's wrap it up. What as a coaching staff, where is your focus? I imagine a little bit of recruiting. Don't want to get into detail, but when will you have the recruiting class signed, and potentially we'll be able to meet up and talk about maybe some of future Cardinals as well as next season? Where is your focus now? You're constantly trying to improve. It's a boring time. What are you focused on?
Well, right now we're playing the waiting game. You know, this is where we sit and we wait. We're excited about what we have for a recruiting class right now, but now we're just kind of waiting patiently for some people to make decisions that would, help us get a lot better. Jenna's been working a lot on our junior list already, so we'll start contacting some people pretty soon. I don't know. But individual meetings, things
it's
like that.
It's a rare time when you can get a little bit away from the game of basketball, maybe just a tiny little bit, or no?
Not right now.